You don't give a fuck when you land or not, just let him go. You don't worry about it, he gonna be a shitty fight, but you gotta let punches go.
Last round.
You can't wait until they get, if you miss it, bang, go right back. And don't take 30 seconds to start another punch.
Alexander, I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody like me. I'm Sonny Liston, I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable.
Look at that! Look at that combination! And the two,
I kept telling him he had no punch, he couldn't hit, he's swinging like a sissy, he's missing, let me see your box. I hadn't started dancing yet. A tremendous sensational first round, and Burns gets hurt. Burns got stunned. Hackle was stunned early in the round. Great first round. Incredible. Perhaps one of the best in middleweight history.
That black guy, he hits hard.
Fire! Welcome everybody to another episode of Hands of Fire Boxing Talk. I'm your host, writer and reporter for RealCombatMedia.com, G.Alé Dampier. And it's a solo dolo ride for me. I'm running by myself. My co-host Ibn is a little occupied with pre-Thanksgiving duties. So I'm holding down the fort here, like I typically do by myself. Originally, that is. But today's podcast is about Nicholas Walters versus Vasily Lomachenko's fight preview that will be taking place this Saturday on HBO. And let's see. I mean, I guess it's just going to be a preview of the fight. I guess I'll leave the smaller topics like the was it Lucas Brown's failed drug test, and now his fight with Shannon Briggs looks to be done, canceled. Really isn't a word on it yet. So I guess I'll just tend to those matters next week until we have a full scope on the story. But let's just hop right into it. Nicholas Walters, Vasily Lomachenko. This is a highly anticipated fight, but it's easy to see it flying under the radar coming off the fight that we had this past Saturday with Sergey Kovalev and Andre Ward. That just seems to be eating up media time, which in retrospect, and I think I'm not sure if I mentioned this on the pod last week, but even though I wasn't right in my pick, or isn't, well, I was right in a pick because I did pick Ward to win, but I guess to say I was kind of like maybe rooting for Kovalev just because he seemed to be so, underestimated. And, even though, Ward won and it's highly, regarded that it's possibly a robbery or the wrong guy won, or even though it stokes a lot of controversy, the good thing about this is, and I didn't really seem to grasp it until later on, and I'm looking at other websites, is just how popular this fight was with many casuals. I mean, I had people coming up to me who know I cover boxing and a huge enthusiast of the sport, asking me who I thought won, from people that I never even thought could, sit through a fight. But yeah, so, I mean, these guys are household names now, surprising. And, even though I was hoping that it did good as far as pay-per-view numbers, I didn't think it really, I didn't think it would top, 200,000 pay-per-view buys. Of course, we're still waiting on the numbers, but considering how, social media was ablaze about this fight Saturday night, I mean, apparently a lot of people were watching this fight. So I'm glad for that. I love it. It brings a little controversy, attention, and, lets you know that, people still do care about boxing, even though they keep praying for the demise of the sport, or keep saying for the past 80 years now about how the sport's been dying. So, that's my thoughts on that. Actually, while we're still on the topic of Kovalev Ward, it's I guess we're at the point now where, we're past, trying to describe scoring the fight. We're just now at the second phase of just trolling anybody that picked Ward or picked Kovalev to win. It's all good and dandy. Just, I don't know. I guess I feel... I don't know why I'm feeling put off by it. I really... It sounds funny, and of course probably some guys are going to be like, well, because you were rooting for Kovalev and you were wrong or whatever, so that's why. But I don't know. I think it's... Had it gone like the other way and Kovalev fans, shitting on or trolling super hard Ward fans, I guess I still find it a bit. I mean, I guess the way it's done, listen, a lot of times you just see the corniest fucking memes online and Facebook and shit. It's like, that's not even funny. Like, I saw one that said that had before and after of Kovalev with all his titles, and then the after was him walking down the street, I guess dressed up as a bum. Because that's the instant drop off once you lose. You go from champion to fucking homeless street man. It's fucking retarded. And I'm gonna use this opportunity to I guess I'm gonna use this opportunity to introduce a little segment. And if you guys listened to I'm sure you did if you listened up to this point, but if the intro, I got a few fighters with some memorable quotes or interviews that they had, at least some of my favorites, most Manuel Stewart, just because he was my favorite trainer. But there's one of Mike Tyson the famous one where he's going off, and eventually you guys know that this is the same interview where he said, I'll eat his children. That one. Before he got to that, he was, that was kind of more of a tirade that he was, trying to find. But beforehand, it was almost just a clutter of just ideas of just a scramble of just incoherent words. He just didn't know, but he just had to get it out. You know what I mean? So there was little parts where he's, like I'll refer to certain parts of the interview, and you guys tell me, or not tell me because you can't right now. But let me think. There's like one part where he says,
Man, what? I don't know, man.
Like just little parts like that. So that inspired me to introduce a segment called
Man, what?
As in, this is just one of those parts where I'm gonna put my boxing, I want to say knowledge aside, but insert the fanhood here of just me going off on a tirade of my own. Maybe it'll be incoherent. It doesn't make any sense, but damn it, it's got to be said. Now, I had my two fellow admin from Ring IQ on here explaining how they thought Andre Ward won. And, with the great fight being that it was, I said, you know what, I'm not too bothered by it. The fight was so good, I really don't even care that Kovalev didn't win. And even to say that, because it makes it seem like I had so much emotionally invested for Kovalev to win, but it's not really the case. I'm not a fan really of either fighter. I'm not even a fan of any fighter at the moment right now. I mean, I have fighters that I like Lomachenko, who's coming up that we're going to be talking about soon. But I'm not really a fan of any fighter right now. I mean, the last fighter was Manny Pacquiao. And even that was starting to get a little loose because of the dumb shit that came out of his mouth half the time. But that being said, I'm not a fan of either fighter. Didn't really care who won. And it wouldn't upset me who won either. But, you know what? Fuck that, man. Kovalev won. Kovalev won that fight by 2 rounds. I don't care what anyone has to say. Kovalev won that fight. That's what I saw. I don't care how many times you want to tell me to watch the fight. Slow it down. Which view? Eagle eye view. Under the carpet view. Ref tripod view, or what the fuck am I trying to say? What's that fucking GoPro headset camera? I don't care what view. Kovalev won that fight. You tell me that a guy, I mean, just think about the whole scope of the fight from beginning to end. The start off was, okay, Andre Ward's going to be a little bit more of the active fighter in the ring as far as movement. And pretty much it's going to be, Kovalev, who I would assume try to take the lead in certain instances. Now, I told you, this goes back to how I was describing the fight in the last podcast, was if Kovalev could have, one, Ward afraid to come on the inside, and two, if he can have Ward backing up, then the fight's on his terms already. And that's how I say it was already going to be a good night for Ward, for Kovalev. And that's exactly what happened, right? Second round, Ward tries to establish himself on the inside. Boom. Third round, Ward's literally scrambling for an idea to try to figure out how to approach this fight. You still see him trying to maybe move and then trying to wrestle sometimes, but even that wasn't working. So he's, am I going to fight this on the inside? Am I going to rough him up? Am I tactically going to try to go on the inside, or am I just going to be on the back foot the whole fight? I mean, it was a whole mix of ideas through that third and fourth round. I'll give him 7, 8, and 9. Right? Okay, and again, I haven't seen this fight twice. I've only seen it once, but if I can go off the collective memory, I'll give him those 3 rounds. And if I could really be generous, I can give him, let's say I give him 3 and 4. So what's that, 5? Okay. That's still about it. The 10th round, Ward was doing okay. That is actually, it's surprising because that was actually one of his better rounds to start. But the way he finished that round, man, it was not good. It looked like he was almost already getting ready to go down again. And the problem for me to really accept it is because, again, this was all on his terms. Like, there wasn't anything about the fight that really Ward was controlling. I'm trying to think about it. I don't. I mean, there was the ways he was negating an ass whooping. There was that. But again, in the situation where you are the challenger, you got to take a stance on the fight. You got to grab that shit by the horns, man. Like, you're coming to take the titles. You're not coming to just casually look around and see if you could slip a belt in your pocket. 'Cause even though some people feel that way about this fight, there's just too much against the grain right now for me to see how, or at least to accept, a Ward decision. Again, I'm not against it just because of who it is or whatever. I'm not going to protest it and call up the Nevada State Commission and tell them that they need to fire Richard or I forgot his fucking name, but Bird or whoever or any of the judges. I'm not going to that extent. But this emotion for me right now is coming from a place of the fans that are just talking too much shit. It's like we're just trying to ignore the fact that this nigga was on his hands and knees. Hurt, nose bloodied, eyes swollen. He was ready to check the fuck up out of there. And even the preceding rounds, he was still he was trying to work out there. I'll tell you that he was trying to work his way into that fight. For me, it just wasn't happening. Because he was trying to, and all of a sudden it would take Kovalev to land maybe 1 or 2 punches, and it looked like he was already in trouble again. Not to say he's stunned, but he was definitely feeling it, or at least got his attention to be like, whoa, I need to relax a little bit. I need to check myself.
I don't know, man.
That's it. I'll leave that alone for now. That's my final resting piece on it. again, Ward, congratulations. You deserve it. I mean, for coming back the way you did, considering that you could have been out of there, done, much props. And that's what I'll give him. And, for me, he gets a lot of comparisons with Mayweather. He's a bit of a different breed, man. A bit of a different breed. I won't elaborate on it. I think you guys kind of know what I'm getting at, but he's a different breed. Anyway, now that that's buried, I don't think I'll talk about it again until the possible rematch negotiations are underway, which it looks like they're going to, actually. But anyway, let's talk about Lomachenko and Nicholas Walters, man, because I think the really cool thing about this fight is the fact that while just about everybody's going with Lomachenko, but every single one of those guys can still tell you that, man, I don't know, but he can still get knocked the fuck out. That's very seldom do you see, like that type of narrative on a fight. It's kind of funny, actually. But yeah, let's talk about this fight, because actually it was talked about last year, and this was around the time, I believe, Vasily Lomachenko was campaigning at 126 pounds, and Walters couldn't take the deal of the fight because I guess he didn't want to either. I know weight was the problem, but I can't remember which side it was that just didn't want to go with it. If it was Walters who didn't think he could just cut down to 126, or is it that that Vasily Lomachenko just didn't trust the guy to go through a whole training camp to not make weight in the first place? I believe it's the latter, if I remember correctly. But now the Lomachenko has moved up to 130 and try to rehash this fight, and it's worked out. And actually, the funny thing is, me and Eben introduced this fight, about a few weeks, maybe a week before the Canelo and Smith fight. I mean, this crept up quick. And it's easy to have it, I guess, creep up on you quick when you got a lot of fights going on. But that's the best thing about it, right? You got little distractions up to the point. When they announce the fights in March, it's like, man, that's fucking a while. But then you forget you can be distracted up till then. But they got it to work out. Here they are in Las Vegas, fighting at 130 pounds. And Lomachenko, again, I think how many fights does he have? 7? I'll do a box rec check just to look up his record. But in the meantime, he again proves to have, that grit to really try to prove himself. I wouldn't even say in the division, I think in just boxing overall, man. This guy has a determination to prove himself, or at least to be a legend, like no other. I've never seen a fast track like this for any fighter before, ever. So when I try to explain to people, or people ask me, like, George, wait, like my stepdad asked me on the undercard of Mayweather Pacquiao, he's like, this guy only has 3 fights? Did I hear that right? How does that work? I don't know. I don't know how that happens. A lot of money and connections. That's the only thing I could really give. But Lomachenko, let's see, how many fights does he have? He is 7 fights. I was right, 7 fights, and the short list here. Jose Ramirez's first fight, 23-5. Who was that's a pretty damn impressive first fight. Of course, we remember Orlando Salido, Gary Russell Jr. I can't even say this guy's name. But the last time, of course, we remember seeing him out was against Roman Martinez, where he scored that impressive knockout in the 5th round. And just really just topped off a just great performance where, again, the great elusive movement of Lomachenko just was on full display. and just mop the floor with Rocky. I mean, I know Martinez is what I would say about a B level fighter, maybe B plus. But damn, man. I mean, it's amazing to me to see how a fighter like this can make decent fighters, not the greatest fighters, but very decent fighters, look so bad. And that's probably why he's the favorite coming into this fight. The only problem is that I think maybe some people might only see power in Walters. And if you're under that idea, you're kind of playing with fire, or you might be a little disappointed come Saturday night. Because, of course, Walters can bang. I mean, we all know this. His way about attack can be a bit loopy and maybe, I guess vulnerable at times. But, he's actually a very sharp puncher in close distance. Like, I actually find he's actually a really precise and sharp puncher when the distance is close, even though he's a rangy fighter. He's a long fighter, so you would think he would benefit off that, but I think he just uses the distance as a launch pad. Now, I guess let's look into this fight as not a full tail of the tape, but I guess as far as skills go. Now, obviously, the size advantage goes to Walters. How does that benefit him? Of course, by power and length if he chooses to do so. Now, his boxing ability is a bit underrated, but at the same time, I don't think we can overstate it at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, it's good, but it's not really anything to necessarily count on. Like, I don't think he would count on it to try to win a 12-round fight. I think if he can try to get a guy out of there, that's probably his first idea. So yeah, clearly, size is definitely in his advantage. Skills, I think that's pretty clear to Lomachenko. He has everything to do to offset that power of Walters and to make it a fight of his own. And it's actually impressive. Well, let me actually get to it. Yeah, because I always like to, I guess I speak on things before I can actually get to the topic at hand. You know what I mean? But experience, I guess that obviously goes to Walters being the professional fighter for the longer time. He doesn't have just 7 fights. And game changer. Who has the game changer here? Now, game changer can be power. And with power, we know we can equate that with, or associate that with, Walters. Lomachenko, on the other hand, and I've had a few discussions with this with several other people, is that while Lomachenko is, of course, very speed and skill-oriented fighter, I feel like he's still developing power. Like, of course, some sharp punchers get their occasional knockdowns. That's why you see some guys that get certain records, like a 30-0 with 18 knockouts. Like, those are kind of like this, like a sharp fighters type of knockouts where they can, if it presents itself, they'll get it. And I feel like there's a little bit more of that with Lomachenko. Like, he's a little bit more than that, because I feel like he's actually he's growing power. That sounds crazy and like maybe stupid in a way, but meaning that like he's developing in a way where he can be a more effective power puncher. Maybe that makes better sense. Okay. The Rocky Martinez, he actually had him like on clear street. Like, Martinez really didn't know where he was for like a good 15 seconds. So that's what I mean. And like Gary Russell literally just endured an ass whooping and didn't necessarily get knocked out. Now, maybe that's just a credit to his chin, or, we don't know, or maybe just a lighter weight, so we don't know. So that's what I mean. So with Lomachenko going up in weight, maybe that's just his way of maybe being a bit more natural and maybe being able to be more effective as a power puncher. Now, with Walters, we just know he's just got flat-out serious power. I mean, I think, what is he, a natural 150-pound guy? I mean, I saw him at a camp, man. Jesus Christ. I couldn't even recognize. I didn't even know who the hell he was. Like, wait a minute, that's Nicholas Walters? That's Axeman? It's like, whoa. But, shit, yeah. So, really, I guess, Game Changer can go for Lomachenko, because he still has like the mystique of how his power necessarily is at this weight. And when you already are at the weight and fighting a guy that's just coming into the weight, you would feel like you feel like you probably already would have that advantage, but you could never tell until you're actually hit with it. So that's where I think the game changer lies, because Walters isn't necessarily conscious to what Lomachenko's power actually is at this point. So, prediction, right? I guess that's all that's left with this fight. The thing that makes this fight interesting is that, again, while everyone favors Lomachenko, Walters is acknowledged that he can get him out of there. So, how does this fight play out with that being said? I'm sure Lomachenko is aware of the knockout power of Nicholas Walters, and I'm sure that he knows that he has to be on his toes. So, you can count on a typical moving Lomachenko. Now, how does he necessarily go about an attack? Well, I would assume that he lays that responsibility on Walters. One of those fighters that bases his output on his opponent's output, because that way he has something to work on to counter, you know what I mean? So it's going to be one of those fights, and unfortunately for Walters, he's going to have to be the type of boxer that he doesn't necessarily like to be. So I would hope, for his sake, that he tries to box, not necessarily the whole fight, because then you don't want to, get out of your element and then be fighting another fighter's fight. But just to go about everything he does, typically smart. Just go about it smart, and just try to work him to the body is what I would suggest for Walters. But I'm not giving out advice. I'm giving a prediction. So, that's the thing. I don't know if he has it in his capacity to do that. So, I'm going to go with the fact that maybe he doesn't. So, I'll go lean to that side and say he doesn't necessarily box too well and gets forced into a firefight, maybe swings a little bit more recklessly than he would want to, and maybe that's where he gets found by pretty decent punch. So a knockout? Is that what I'm getting at here? It's funny, I just stumble upon predictions. I don't necessarily go flat out like, oh, it's gonna be this, and this way, and it's gonna happen in this round. I'll literally think out ideas of how the fight can play out and what's more likely, and then base my prediction off that. As you can see, I'm still fluttering around ideas on how this fight can play out, but it's not as hard as Kovalev Ward was, and just watching it is still difficult to think of a strategy. But I guess I'll lean more on the idea. I think he'll get a decision. I think I'll favor Lomachenko with a unanimous decision. But a pretty fun fight at the same time. I would just love to see, what happens once Lomachenko gets caught. I just want to see that reaction. Or maybe he doesn't even get caught. Who knows, man? Maybe he's just not. What if he just doesn't even get found this fight? Whew. Gee, yeah, listen, if it's one-sided, like most of Lomachenko's fights have been, I don't know, folks. I think we might have to vacate some spots in the top 3 pound for pound. That's right, top 3, man, because that's saying something. Top 3, folks. Anyway, that wraps it up for me. I'm out of here. I got to do some traveling, get down to the family, and spend some Thanksgiving dinner with the family. You guys enjoy your greens, beans, potatoes, tomatoes, and you guys know where I'm getting at with this. But for real, hopefully you guys enjoy the podcast. Something to listen to while the turkey's in the oven. So till next time, peace.